Hi, and welcome to She's the Boss, the show that's all about female founders and women doing extraordinary things in business. Now, if you enjoy this episode, please will you like, comment, subscribe, share, all those sorts of things. But in the meantime, I am beside myself because my guest today is a woman who I admire so much. I love everything that she's doing. She is the founder of SheEO. Many of you will have heard of it. I know there are loads of SheEO activators in Australia and all around the world. But Vicki Saunders is an amazing woman who is helping women around the world really work on the world's to-do list. So welcome, Vicki, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview.
No, I'm very happy to be here, and I love your hair. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now this is all about you. So let's start off with what is the SheEO Network? What is SheEO all about? And why did you set it up? Maybe I'll just make it a nice big one and you can go off and,
Yeah. We are a community of radically generous women who want to transform what the world looks like. I think we're living in this time where pretty much everything is broken. We're starting to really realize that a lot of our systems and structures aren't working for us anymore, and we need to reinvent them. And the challenge that we have is, up until now, 51% of the population, women, can't really get their ideas funded, supported, celebrated, amplified. So we're living in a world that's literally only using 50% of our capacity.
It's insane.
Crazy.
It's absolutely insane.
Why would you do that?
Yep.
It makes no sense. So we are out there as a community funding and supporting women who are working on the world's to-do list. We're looking for juicy, amazing, innovative ideas that can scale around the world that are tackling some of the major challenges we're facing. We're looking for fresh perspectives, new models, new mindsets. And we have funded so far 73 ventures to be just under 100 in early 2021.
Amazing.
And it's just like when you see the kinds of companies that women pick when women are investing, we've created a whole new approach to do that. The world would look totally different, and much more balanced, less inequality, better work environments, the whole thing.
Exactly. And you only really need to look at leaders like Jacinda Ardern to see the difference that women can make if they are given that power position, which we are, I mean, one of the things that I talk about a lot is I am completely fed up with waiting for slow change to happen, because it doesn't bloody happen. And when it does, it takes forever to do tiny amounts of change. So I love what you're doing and what I'm doing as well. We're all trying to just say, forget all of that. We don't need you to make change. We're just going to start a whole new playground. So tell me a little bit, though, about how SheEO works, because the model is so clever. That's what I love. When you say radically generous women, what do you actually mean?
Sure. So part of the thing that we're here to solve is this crazy thing that around 2% of venture capital goes to women entrepreneurs.
Insane. Yep.
Right. It's just like statistically impossible to happen without lots of biases built into structures. So that's number one. Number two is my belief that a lot of our systems and structures, as you just said, are just built for another time and another place. And the last thing we need to do,
gender.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yes, that part too. The last thing we need to do is just go and create like a female version of what we're already doing.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And so when I looked at all these things, I'm like, first of all, that model's all broken anyway. So we don't want equality there. Thank you very much. If you were starting over again, what would you do? And so I have this thing where I'm like, we don't want to level the playing field. We want to create a whole new playing field.
Yep.
To your point. So our model starts with creating a very simple access to get in. It's $92 a month, $1,100 a year converted to your local currency. We pool this money together. So it starts with this gift of radical generosity. You're gifting your capital into this fund. Then you're trusting the whole community of women who do the same thing to vote for amazing ventures that we all want to support. And they get a 0%. Yeah, super easy.
Yep.
Get a 0% interest loan from all of us. They pay it back over 5 years. Women pay their debts. The money comes back in.
Yep.
And then it's loaned out again. So it's this perpetual flow of money like a renewable resource just flows forward. But the really cool part about this is the ecosystem that's around it. So kind of the opposite of like Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, those kinds of shows where
so I don't mean to laugh, but they are so predictable, aren't they?
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, it's just so old school.
Yep.
That world doesn't exist anymore. So, you know, instead of going, hey, Jules, here's some money, get me a 10x return on that, over to you, make it happen. I'm going to be watching every step of you and I'm going to drive you crazy and call you every Saturday, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
Instead of that, we go, oh my God, I love what you're doing. Can we help?
Yeah.
We come with a completely different vibe, right?
Yeah.
And so all of us are there. What do you need? Introductions, influence, door opening, buying power, like become your customers, marketing, support, a hug, kind words, you know, like all the things that you need to be supported when you're doing like really hard things in the world as an entrepreneur, solving like major challenges we're facing. So we bring all of that together. And so from an entrepreneur's perspective, a person in business, you walk into this community and the first thing you hear is, how can I help? What do you need? Is there anything I can do for you? And so we're there to support each other, plus the women that we fund. And so it's this really, I mean, most people who step into this community are like, I put it up on my LinkedIn saying that I'm an activator. And then all these people reached out to me and they asked how they could help. And they liked my business. And can I help you? Like, it's just,
it's so beautiful. It is.
Spirited community.
It's something that certainly I've been working with women, teaching them PR for many, many years. And I just see it time and time again in that entrepreneur space, business owner space, female founders, that there is such generosity of spirit. And I know that there is for the women that work in corporate land as well. But I think for some of them, they've had to adopt more male principles in order to be able to cut through and get to the higher roles. So I really, really see it with the women that has sort of jumped out of corporate and decided to go out on their own. But I love absolutely all of it. So what is a SheEO activator? Who is that woman? What can you describe what that is? Because I see it on a lot of LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah. So it's women of all ages and stages who resonate with this idea. We think that everyone has something to give, no matter what stage they're at.
Right.
And so if you get excited by this and you want to come in and you want to put a small amount of money into a pool, be part of this community, vote for, everybody gets one vote when you put money in.
Right.
So you get to vote for the entrepreneurs you're excited about, you can support, but then you get access to all of these people too to help you. And, you know, it's this kind of, it's an experiential way to recognize that we actually do live in abundance, not scarcity.
Yep.
We're really told this lie from a very early stage. It's part of our economic model that there's not enough. Only 3 days left.
That's right. Compete against each other.
That's 13 people looking at this right now. If you don't go quickly, Vicky, it's all going to be gone. I'm like, it's a cruise. There's 700,000 cruises. There'll be lots more cruises. But we kind of tell this lie that there's not enough and that we have to do everything alone and that we should know how to do this already. And so in this community, it's kind of like, hey, you're amazing at these 3 things, Vicky, but never touch a spreadsheet. Thank you very much, because you suck at spreadsheets. And we have 25 people with their hand up right here who want to help because they love spreadsheets.
They love spreadsheets. That's right.
And so it's this collaborative, connected community where we're all in support of one another. Doesn't mean it's like all, wishy-washy, not serious.
Fluffy, silly. Yeah, I get that.
Very serious. We are sleeves rolled up, ready to help, deeply committed to creating a new world, but doing it on our own terms. We're fine the way we are. Thank you very much. Everyone's super different, coming with different skills and different approaches. And we value all of those things because we just know that like one person doesn't have everything. It's just not the way it works. We all have different gifts to share. And so this concept of being, generous with your gifts is easy when it's something that you have in abundance. Like, for example, I have a huge number of connections on LinkedIn, like an insane number. And everyone owes me a favor. I can never use all those favors. So please ask me. Like if you're an activator in our network and you say, hey, could you make an intro to so-and-so? I'm like, absolutely. And so that the sharing in this like affiliated network of people that you know are going to pass on that generosity, as opposed to just a bunch of takers. Like we're not takers. We're very much, you have to give first to get into our community. So the spirit's there. And it's my belief that this concept of being radically generous with ourselves and with others is game changing for our success.
Absolutely.
It just changes the conditions.
Now, talk to me a little bit about the pandemic and COVID and how that's affected SheEO, because really I started She's the Boss on the back of the lockdown that we've had in Melbourne for 7 months nearly. But it's just, I've had the privilege really of interviewing about 170 women now, and there is a consistent theme throughout that I think women are just kind of fed up, and that we've had an opportunity now to stop, pause, think, how am I going to be able to actually make those changes that I want to make? And I personally feel this kind of movement of women around the world who are going, come on, now is our time. Have you found that that's sort of played out in the SheEO network?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think there was recognition prior to COVID that things weren't working.
Yeah.
Now it's incredibly obvious. It is so painful. Childcare shut down, all those extra tasks at home, all those things that are going on, and where the systems aren't working for us. So frontline workers, predominantly women, and racialized women out there doing a lot of this work. The inequality has just been exposed.
Yeah, absolutely.
The curtains are pulled back on everything, and it's a nightmare. And so on the one side, really painful. We need a she-covery. We're in a she session, like all the words that are being used.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, being in community like this,
yes,
during a situation like this, changes everything. I mean, we are all hands on deck to help. What do you need? How can I support? Do you need, do you have people that you need to lay off that other people could use? Sharing of resources. And right after the pandemic was announced, on March 16th, we had a big call with all of our ventures around the world and came together, and we did a very quick sort of triage of red, yellow, or green. How are you doing with your business? Because it was really shocking.
Yeah, it was shocking.
Lost 90% of revenue right away. And it's like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? And we got on this call, and one of our ventures was having a huge meltdown because they hired homeless people to service all of the linens for restaurants. And the restaurants all closed.
Right,
and then she had people that were like at risk of being homeless on her staff thinking, oh my God, I can't lay these people off.
No.
So she was really stressed about it, trying to figure out how to pivot like in microseconds, which is hard. When you're in stress, it's hard to think clearly. And one of our ventures said, what do you need? And she said, I don't know. Like, I just don't want to lay them off right now. And she's like, what's your payroll for a month? And said, it's coming to you right now. Oh. Here's uncovering your payroll.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps from you talking.
Right? And then we all started to cry, of course.
Yes.
Oh, it's so nice.
That's so beautiful.
And then there was this moment of a pause, and this person said, what if none of us went down? What if we made a pact right now that all of us survived, and we do whatever we treat this like we're a family? And that just opened up everything in our community. And we all just like, that's it. What you need, please ask. And so we've created this very safe space for people to come in and ask for what they need. It's not a normal practice. It's a hard thing for a lot of us to do, to ask for help.
It is very hard for a lot of people, but I think there's something nice though about asking for help amongst women. It's very different to going out to the big wide world of all types of people and both genders and saying, I'm stuck, I need help. Whereas amongst women, I don't know, it's just easier. You understand the empathy that will hopefully be there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think it really is a practice. And when you start to ask for help, it's like, did I need to get you to like retweet something? And then it's like, does someone know the CEO of blah, blah?
Yeah.
It's like, of course I do. You want an intro? And they're like, what? So we've had all these crazy stories where, someone had a retail strategy for their business, and then the stores closed and they needed to get into a bigger store. And this is an exact example. Does someone know the CEO of this big, huge chain? And someone said, yeah. Do you want an intro? Made an intro, and boom, they're in there, and they get a huge PO, which is purchase order, which is bigger than their income for all of last year.
Oh, wonderful. What a great story.
And they wouldn't have asked otherwise, right? They wouldn't have probably asked for that connection if it was normal land. And they kind of had their like bit by bit retail thing happening. But this has allowed for, bigger dreaming and emboldening. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So now talk to me about, I assume there was a moment, there must have been something that happened that made you go, I'm going to go and set up SheEO. Was there, and I'm going to ask you about your career in a minute because I'm fascinated to know how you got to this place and this brilliant idea. But was there a moment, was there something that happened that just tipped you over and went, right, that's it, I'm starting something?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm a woman in this world in my 50s. So there have been 1,000 cuts over the years.
Yeah. High five. I'm with you on that one.
That led to this. When I was in my early 30s, I took a company public on the stock exchange, which is kind of a big deal at the time. And I got booted quite quickly.
Out of the company?
Yeah. After we went, they're like, we don't want you to be the CEO. We want him to be the CEO.
Once we got into negotiation. Sorry, go on.
No, it's good. And it was, largely because I just had a very different leadership style. I cried. We were like, what is with this person?
She's weak.
I was real.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was really painful. And I heard so many things. Like by the time I was in my early 30s, I don't know about you, but I knew everything that was wrong with me. Thank you very much for pointing it out, everybody. Got it. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you very much. And internalized a lot of it, right? How you're conditioned, keep it quiet, don't ruffle the boat. Oh, Vicky, she's a little aggressive. Her ideas are a bit big, all the stuff. And so I kind of, healed through that, got through it. And then just before I turned 50, I was mentoring this amazing young woman who had a rocket ship of a company, kind of like I did back in the day. And I heard all the same things.
Still going on.
Advisors were saying to her that I had heard, and my entire body shook and I was furious. I thought, oh my God, she's amazing. She has this incredible company. They're going to take her out. They're going to replace her. And I'm like, this is why we don't have a lot of women running scaled up companies. As soon as they get traction, they get taken out. And so I just was like furious. I went home. Like I sort of knew this, but it hit me hard. And I'm like, first of all, they don't know what they're doing. They're making it up as they go too. Like nobody has a clue. And I said to my husband, like, not on my watch. I can't handle this. I have to solve this. I have to go into it. And I had avoided doing anything woman only my entire life.
So same here.
Conditioned, right? It's our age. Our vintage is like, oh, anything women only, you're not going to be taken seriously.
That's right.
It's a tenth of the fun.
And even now you get, so that must mean you hate men. No, it doesn't. It just means that women need support. I mean, it's crazy. Go on. Sorry,
so I lost it over that. And then, and I really didn't want to do anything women only because it's hard enough just doing a normal business, right? But if you do something that's women only, it's just like 10 times harder. It doesn't get valued.
Yeah. We're
just brutal at this stuff. And then everyone denies it. Like, that's not true. I didn't mean that. What are you talking about? You're crazy. And so I've avoided it for a long time. And then I'm like, yep, this is what the universe is giving me to heal my feminine side. Because I grew up with a lot of boys, a lot of testosterone, only girl on the competitive soccer team, all the stuff.
Right.
So I've been healing that ever since. And I have a lot of crying going on in the early days of SheEO because I thought once I got into a community of all these women and they were so incredible and so supportive and I saw all this stuff happening, I'm like, what have I been doing for 50 years?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Like I just never had a sisterhood before. And it was so, so special. So yeah, there was that moment where I just thought, this is a well-designed game. The system is incredibly well designed. It is not by chance that only 3% of women reach the top of Fortune 500s, that only 3% of women are creative directors, that 3.5% of women are film directors. It's intentionally designed, it's biased in the system. You have to actually create a new system if you want to change the numbers.
Yes.
And so that's what we're doing.
Great. Everything you say is just firing me up. Okay. So, let's now go back to, your early career and the experiences that you had and how you managed to get to start SheEO in the first place. Because I just think for women that are watching, it's good to know that life doesn't follow a very, obvious straight line. It just doesn't happen like that. So I love to find out how it wiggled and wormed its way. So let's say start with you, finishing high school.
So finishing high school. So I had this thing, I had a feeling that I wanted to do something really big and have a big impact from a really young age. Like I'll just go back before high school just for 1 second.
Yeah, you can go back to birth if you like.
Initial story, but my mom would always tell me that when I was 2 years old, I got a doll from my grandmother. And my grandmother said, here you go, honey. And I looked at it and I said, thank you very much, Nana, but I don't play with dolls. And they all looked at me like, what is this child? Like, what is with her? And she's like, you just came in and you wanted to sit at the adults table and like, what are they talking about? What's going on? And so there was something in me clearly when I came here that I wanted to do something big, but I looked around and I didn't see any jobs, any people that were women that certainly were doing anything where I was like, oh, that's it. Like I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And most of my family were teachers and all their friends were teachers. And I'm like, I definitely don't want to do that. Of course I end up being a teacher in a completely different way, but, so that was a thing. And then I thought I was quite interested in foreign policy and computer science. And so I went to university and I studied, poli-sci, computer science, economics. And then I was like, I can't do computer science. I was in the,
were you one woman in a room full of blokes? Oh, yeah. I bet.
100%. Yes, which I'm completely used to. But I was like, this is brutal. Everyone just puts their head down and doesn't talk to me. There's no social.
Yeah.
I liked the concept of it. I loved math and like problem solving, but no. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll go into academics and foreign policy. I just loved politics and like power structures and stuff. And I kind of got into that, did my master's, and then I realized there's not enough freedom in academics for me. I love to be free. I never, ever thought of being an entrepreneur to start with.
Did you even know what the word was? I mean, it was really not bandied around, I reckon, until the late 90s, early 2000s anyway. Before that, I mean, it was just somebody who owned a business, I guess.
Yeah, or someone who couldn't get a job. Like, really. It was like,
probably more correct. Yeah.
Get a job. And so I had a huge transformative moment. I was over in Europe trying to decide if I was going to do my PhD when the wall fell down in Berlin. And I went, oh my God, history's in the making. So I got on a train and I went over to Eastern Europe and I ended up staying for 4.5 years.
In Eastern Europe? That's really interesting. So where were you living?
So in Prague.
That is my favorite city. I worked for an ad agency in London and persuaded the CEO, instead of doing the $250 a head at a fancy restaurant for our Christmas party, to take the whole company to Prague for the weekend. I love that city.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah,
right. So what did you do there?
There were only I was there right at the beginning, right? Hundreds of thousands of people in the square. Havel, people saying, Havel, run to be in the castle. And he's like, me? Like, I'm the poet.
Can I just ask, but why Prague for you? I'm really interested. I'm curious to know how you ended up there in the first place.
Well, so I went over from Paris on a train and I went up and down through, and Prague was it. I mean, it's an unbelievably beautiful city. Absolutely.
It is absolutely. And the only city in Europe that didn't get bombed in the Second World War, I think, or the only medieval city.
Everything is, still in place.
So, but what do you do? I mean, could you speak the language? What did you do? I'm just going to stay here. How did you get a job?
I know, it's crazy. I started teaching English at a school, and then I bumped into some Czechs, and anyway, then I started an English language school myself. And
clever.
then there were no nice clothes. And so I had a favorite brand out of India. I mean, these are crazy stories.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I went to India with $7,000 strapped around my waist.
And introduced Indian clothes to the Czechs.
Like a very beautiful brand from India called Anoki. Right. I opened that store in the downtown.
Okay.
But what happened was I was standing in the square and everybody was talking about what they were going to do now that they were free. Every conversation. Now that I'm free, I'm going to do this. Now that I'm free, I'm going to do that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm free too. What am I going to do? And it was a complete and total body reinvention on the spot. I can do anything. Anything is possible. I'm in a place where everyone's dreaming. It was magic sauce for me.
Yeah, right.
And then I'm an evangelist for things that I love and get excited about. I can't stop talking about anything I'm excited about. And so then I just started saying to everyone, what are you going to start? Why don't you start a business? And so I got all these people to start businesses over there, most of them expats, the people I knew. I learned Czech, which is super hard to learn. I
was going to say, what do you mean? I just learned Czech.
No,
I mean, you're obviously good with languages.
I have a good ear. So I picked up enough to say all the words I needed for the store.
Right.
And I didn't have to learn it for the other stuff because I was teaching English. So I didn't have to learn Czech.
Right.
When I opened the store, that was harder. And then, one day someone said to me, why are you doing all of this here instead of in your own country? They asked me this question that just hit me. And I started to think, how could I create the conditions like I experienced in Prague back at home when you're supposed to be free already, but you don't feel like it.
Right.
There are all these rules of the game. And so literally for the past 25 years, I have experimented over and over and over with designs around innovation, business, creating the conditions for people to reach their potential, to bring their dreams out of them. What is that? And I've done it with youth. I've done it in the technology space. And now with SheEO, I feel like the design that we have is a culmination of everything I've learned about human behavior, human potential, collaboration.
Yeah, I know, it's beautiful.
That we need, like all the pieces. And having been an entrepreneur in Canada, hard during the conservative period where any big idea was like, you should start with a pilot.
Right.
Or Prague where like, hello, dream big. And then to Silicon Valley, which is like insanity place, right? Which is like, what did
you do in Silicon Valley? Because I mean, for us Australians, it sounds so interesting and intriguing. What did you do?
Yeah. So I was fascinated at that point. I started a company called Zazango. Our first client was Walmart. They at the time had been
Your first client was Walmart. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah, almost just
you are
took me down. But,
clever woman.
They had they were doing something super interesting in the early 2000s with sustainability. They were one of the first companies that came out with sustainability plans for each person who worked there. They all had these sustainability goals. And we had a software that aggregated together my 3 actions of recycling, et cetera, with 3 other people with this equals blah, blah. And it rolled it up and showed the impact. And then stores could compete against stores. People could see what their small little impact would mean when it was put together with others. I'm very fascinated with like, how do you unlock people to realize that they have the power to change the world? How do you do that? And I've tried lots of different experiments, but that was a tech company in the Valley. It was hard. But it was also one of those like, go big,
right?
Or go back home, Canada.
Think global.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about SheEO. So you've had this idea that you want to start something and that everything needs to change, which I couldn't agree with you more. But how do you actually get started? What did you do? I mean, take me through the first 3 months of it. How did you even get started?
Well, so first of all, women like things to be perfect and every question has to be answered. And like when I was getting started with this whole thing, it was like, I had to have everything thought through before I started. So I did a ton of consultation. Like if someone's going to write a $1,000 check to this and not get their money back and it's a gift, you better have a solid value prop there. And so, I had to craft a story about why this injustice mattered and how we could get you to believe you could do something about it.
And at that stage, were you thinking global or were you thinking, I'll just do it in Canada?
Oh, no, I was like, definitely. I'm like, we're going to get to 1 million women in 5 years.
And did you? Because you're up to 5 years now, aren't you?
No. We did not get there that fast. It's a little bit harder than I thought it was.
Well, I'm going to be doing my damnedest to get as many women to sign up as possible after this interview.
Awesome. Yeah. So it was super hard. But so we did lots of consultation. Lots of different people. Then I had there's a lot of different moving parts to this. It was, women contributing their capital. I thought there'd be a lineup. There wasn't. I thought we have a waiting list. Everyone's going to want to do this. And then there was getting entrepreneurs to apply, and women entrepreneurs have been turned away so many times and have filled out forms so many times and been so disappointed that in general, at that point, it's changed quite a bit. You would just not apply so you wouldn't be disappointed. I'm just not even going to disappoint myself. I'll just stay small and not apply.
Yeah, right.
I want to know, right? And so we changed the application form. It was only 10 questions, really simple, no pitch decks, no attachment, no jargon. Everybody who applied.
It sounds like heaven.
Really every single problem along the spectrum we redesigned and changed. Everybody voted, and then activators would be like, oh, I wouldn't know how to vote. I don't know how to pick companies. I'm like, yeah, you do. You go shopping. Every time you go shopping, you're picking a company.
You pick something. Can I ask, if you didn't have pitch decks, what sort of questions were you asking people to answer? Just because I'm imagining that I was speaking to a woman from Springboard Enterprises the other day, and she said something that really resonated with me. And she said, women think in stories and men think in numbers, and investors are looking for you to tell a story with numbers. And I was like, ugh, because I'm terrible with numbers myself. But I just thought, wow, that really hit the nail on the head. So I'm interested to know, how do you make those decisions within SheEO? What is the application form?
So the application, first of all, if it was up to me only, we would have one question. But I thought, oh, that's really going to freak people out. Like, we're already loaning out money on 10 questions. So that also freaks out every single banker on the universe. And so the first question, which is like a two-parter, is why you? Why are you the person to solve this problem? And why is now the right time? Because if you
Great question.
Yeah. So if you don't have I have to solve this. Every morning I get up out of bed and I'm not going to stop until I solve this kind of thing. That's what we're looking for. And timing is also a huge part of your success. Like, it can be a great idea, but if the timing's wrong, you're done. And so those two things are the things we really look for. And then it's, of course, who are you? How do you make money? What's your vision? Like, where are you going with this? What's the team look like? A few other questions, but it's just text. And then if you get into the semifinals, we ask you to validate your financials, what you said your revenues were.
Right.
And also to do a 1-minute video, just to give another way for people to consume your story. And so we see a little bit about you. And so that's it. Super, super simple. And, but it's hard. Like, why you? Why now? In less than 200 words. Like, why are, and you gotta hook me. There's like hundreds of women looking at this application who all think differently, from 14-year-olds to 96-year-olds, from bankers to teachers to social activists. Like, tell that story. That's hard. Yeah,
absolutely. So sorry, I interrupted you because I was so interested in that little bit. So the first 3 months, you realized that you're going to have to do things differently. The women weren't queuing up, which they obviously are now, because it's such a beautiful sentiment.
They are
and what it is that you're doing, but aren't they?
No, it's still really hard to get people to activate. It's like this. I think a lot of us are like, don't believe in our power to create change. Is one thing, right? Like, oh, well, would I have something to contribute here? I mean, oh, that person's in the network. They know so much more than me. It's not a contest. Like, we all have something to give. And the question.
Go on. No, you go on.
No, I think it's, there's a whole bunch of things that block people. Maybe they don't feel like they can contribute. Others are like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm like, that's okay. You can literally just contribute money and not do anything else. Or you can show up on our weekly calls and be part of it. It's on your own terms, which we're not really used to. We're not used to having experiences like this. Someone tells you, this is what it means to be an activator. Do this, do that. I'm like, no. Show up however you want. And so I think there's a lot of ways where we're pretty tough on ourselves and think, if I'm going to do something, I better do it all the way. Like, what if you didn't? Look, I'm surprised, actually, because certainly here, the more it's in Australia, the more I look around, the more I see all these women as SheEO activators. So it's obviously starting to grow here. Yes, and Canada, have you got what countries are you in now, and how can we help you spread the word? Oh, well, thank you. Well, this is helpful, and we'll put this out into the world. But so Canada, we started in Canada, then I went to the US. Then went to New Zealand, the next closest country, and then Australia and UK. And so we've really followed the energy from, people who will not stop emailing us is where we go next. And so next up is going to be a couple of countries in Africa, India, a bit of Southeast Asia, and maybe some Latin America in 2022 when COVID kind of releases, hopefully. But huge lineup. We have 70 countries in the pipeline. So we're quite excited to be everywhere eventually.
Yeah, fantastic. And also that as you go out to other countries, of course, you get the ideas, the entrepreneurs in those countries kind of become aware of it and are able to do it. So anyone can apply. Is that sort of the way it works, as long as you're a woman and you're running your own business and you've got big global kind of disruptive plans?
Yeah, so there's sort of two pathways in. One is you don't have to be in business at all if you'd like to become an activator and to contribute your capital and then have this amazing network at your disposal where you're part of it and supporting. If you have a business and you're working on the world's to-do list, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we have some criteria up on our website. You have to be majority owned by a woman, woman-led.
Yes, now that's an interesting one, because I was talking to it. There's a VC fund in Australia that has been set up by women for women. And she told me, in fact, it's one of our clickbait clips, about the men that are putting a woman in, giving her 5% and then getting her to apply as a female founder. So people actually fudging the system as if it is an incredibly biased towards men in the first place.
Yep, that's why we do 51%, majority woman owned, at least 51% or more. Even the husband and wife thing, not 50-50. If you won't give you 1%, was telling you something. So
I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, there's criteria around that. And then it's a 0% interest loan. So it's for those ventures that are at least 50K in revenue, up to a couple million, that early stage that's already got a product in market. And then we can really help when you're at that stage. So we can become your customers. We can get you more customers. We can help you to grow your business from that perspective. We don't do idea stage. So that's the piece. So when we started, it was tough. It was really hard. Getting new ideas off the ground that are very, very different. If you were into investing, and I walked in and I'm like, your 14-year-old daughter has the same power as you in our network. You both have one vote. People were like, what?
What
are you talking about?
So what sort of businesses have you invested in so far? Well, Can you give me a couple of examples?
Yes, absolutely. So we have the world's biggest garage sale. I don't know if you know this, Yaz, who's in Australia. I just talk about Australian companies.
Yeah, I do.
Yaz is amazing. And she is like repurposing goods in the circular economy. So people that have, desks, office furniture that can be like repurposed and resold, everything in the circular economy. So there's no waste. And she has all kinds of really interesting corporate partnerships around this and is doing incredibly well. Another one is called Neighborlytics. And they're working on really trying to understand through data sustainable cities. And so they do a lot of analysis from an urban planning perspective of what makes great cities. And in the past, it's so interesting. Lucinda Hartley is the CEO, co-CEO. And she said, pre-pandemic, we looked at all this data, and the way that they did urban planning is like, let's build a huge sports stadium so it's a destination place that everybody comes to.
Yep.
And now those places are decimated and like there's nothing happening. There's no vibrancy. And it's a huge kind of like white elephant. And then these smaller communities that have, rich small businesses, parks and schools and co-working spaces are doing really well. And so we're starting to you think of like downtown cores now. They're just like empty. Maybe not in Australia because they're getting back at it, but we are over here are going to be like in a world of pain for much longer.
Well, I think it's the winter-summer thing, just to take that as a side, but it'll be really interesting to see. So we're allowed out now, but I reckon by the time it gets to March, we'll probably go back in, who knows, with injections and things. But yeah.
So there's a real mix of businesses. There's a company in New Zealand that's created home compostable courier packaging. So if you just think of the moment where all of these packages coming to your house that is thrown in the landfill. Nightmare. Yes. She has these home compostable courier satchels, which are amazing. And now going into all kinds of other products around that. Really great. So a lot of stuff, across everything. So from education to food security to recycling and plastics to wellness.
I love it. I just think women at the moment, I don't know whether it's just where my mind is but the things that women are doing at the moment really are kind of changing everything. It's just beautiful to see. And the fact that you've built a network that can support that. So how does the network part of it work? How do you get access to all these women to hang out with them? What do you do?
Digital calls. So we get on a call like this every week in every country. So we're doing 5 calls a week in each country.
Right.
And so we come on calls. There's some kind of theme to it. Sometimes some of them are about learning, mindset shifts that we need to have, deep dive about some of the ventures to learn more about them. We have this signature ask and give practice, giving and receiving, where we go into small groups and it's like, what do you need, Jules? Do you need some help? Do you want some promotion for your show? Do you want more guests? What is it we can help you with? And you ask for help and people contribute what they have. And each week when you do these, you're meeting more and more people. You're getting deeper and deeper in relationship with folks to realize, wow, like literally I have everything I need around me. I need a new brand. Susie knows how to do that. I need some help with my cash flow. Julie's awesome at that. And so you start to meet all these people who are sharing in the community. And then we do fun things because we can now with COVID. We do road trips. So it's Australia's going to the US this week and Canada's going to New Zealand. Right. And we meet women from other countries. And then we have all kinds of other kinds of things online. We've been doing a racial justice working group, which has been really powerful. We've been doing yarning circles, rooted in your story, learning from our Indigenous sisters. We have lots of different learning circles happening. All of this is available in the network. It can be as simple as you contribute your money, you vote, which is really fun. You see the ventures, you can support them, or you can get deeply involved in any of these other things, or you can come in and out. Completely up to you. But really the power is we have this online community. You can go in and search. Is there anyone here who is senior at Telstra who I can reach out to because X, and then there are the 6 names, and you can reach out and say, hi, I'm part of this.
Amazing. And are you targeting organizations as well? So would you go to someone like Telstra and say, become part of the SheEO activation program, or is it very much at that granular level with just the individual women?
So we're very much focused on individual women signing up to the credo that they're part of this. Yeah. However, CBA and Telstra have been really great supporters and sponsors. We just did a big summit, and they were added, and they gifted a number of activations for women.
Oh, fantastic.
For those who can't afford it. And we have a process for gifted activation. So I think we have another 20 or 25 available that we pay 80%. And then you pay 20% to get into this network. So there's lots of ways in if money is a barrier, and you can apply through that on our website. But yeah, increasingly we're seeing companies get quite excited about this because you're learning so much about new business models, new ways of working. A lot of our ventures are extremely innovative. They're all paying a living wage. They have they're on the cutting edge of what, recycled packaging, no waste, climate.
Amazing.
Yeah, just all the things. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, during the course of running it, or in your life really, because so this show is about inspiring other women to give it a go and go out on their own, and also see that there are so many amazing women doing successful things out there. One of the things that I like to ask, if you're happy to share, is have there been any moments in your life or career or the SheEO, as you've been growing that, where it's felt like, oh my, like a challenge has come? And often, and I describe my own situation where, I was developing a website, and the guy that I was partnering with who was building it just walked away in the middle of it. And I just was frozen, but I can look back now and go, it changed everything, because I had to pivot, use that awful word pivot, but pivot and change. Yeah. And it gave me a whole new perspective. Have you had that in your career that you'd be prepared to share with us?
Today, yesterday, the day before, honestly, all the time. I mean, especially with SheEO. I mean, I've had a million things over the years, obviously.
But let's talk about SheEO. Yeah, as you were building it, and obviously one of the challenges has been getting the women, because you think that they'll all come. And I know with She's the Boss, I've had the same. So how have you resolved that, and what do you do when things don't go smoothly?
Most of the time it doesn't. So I cry a lot.
That does help.
I do. I just have to let it flush out of me. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe
it's
that
so
just happened.
Cathartic to have a good sob.
Hard.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I've learned in times of crisis, this is so fascinating. So you've probably heard of fight or flight.
Yes.
Right. So in a time of crisis, we're seeing this all over the world right now. We have people who are just like, I'm going to fight that. That's not really going to happen. I'll do something, you go against it. Or later.
Or run away.
See ya. Bye-bye. Over to you.
Yeah.
Here we go. And so we see a lot of fight or flight, but it turns out that those sociological studies were only done on men. And about 2 decades ago, a woman went and looked at all the data around this and said, oh, we only had men go through these. I wonder if it would be different if we gendered this.
Oh, I'm getting those goosebumps again. Yeah.
So there is a third thing that happens in a point of crisis, and women tend and befriend when they get in crisis. So they look after each other and they befriend others. They get into community to support. And this has changed everything for me. Now that I'm in a community like this, when I get in crisis, I reach out. I wouldn't have done that before. I have learned, I talk all the time. It's like, all you have to do is ask. It's all right here. And then every once in a while when I get stuck, I'm like, are you asking?
It's hard to do. I know. I find it very hard to.
Oh my God, I just did it to myself. Like, this is clearly, one of the things that you become an evangelist for is the stuff you're working on, right? Your greatest strength is your greatest weakness oftentimes. Yeah. And so that's been a really big thing for me is to actually reach out and ask. And that requires, you have to go vulnerable. you have to like, and all of those things where it's like, no, I've got this. I'm okay. You're too busy. I can, like the robot actions that start happening. It's like,
you got to drop it.
But I've really learned that, in fact, very many times, we just had an example of this last week. One of our team broke something technology wise, not really broken. And they were like, oh no. And so they went and asked someone else on the team for help. And the person was like, oh my God, I have an answer for that. And in 2 hours created a whole new app to solve the whole thing. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And
if she hadn't asked, that wouldn't have happened.
And the person who solved it said, it's literally been like the best part of my last 2 weeks. Thank you so much. I couldn't go to bed. I had to solve this. I was so excited. And that reminder that when you ask, you give a chance for someone else to give of what they have as their gift. And if we don't do that, we rob everyone of that chance. And so that's a real unwinding and a deconditioning.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of looking at it. And of course, you're totally right, because we all, I think, as women inherently want to give, want to nurture, want to help. So, but we just don't like asking for it for ourselves. So somebody has to ask. And once you do, to have that kind of outcome is amazing.
Yeah, we are, MJ, who's our development guide, who works with a lot of the ventures and all of us in the community, talks about giving and receiving as the in-breath and the out-breath. You actually need the full flow. Otherwise, you're like always depleted and out of breath if you're always just exhaling. Or if you're always inhaling, you put yourself at stress. So when you do both, giving and receiving, it's like a muscle,
I love it. What a beautiful description. Well, Vicky, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours because I love everything you're doing. It absolutely aligns with everything I'm trying to do. So, and I also want to say thank you for taking time out of what must be a very busy day to talk to little old me and all these people that will be hopefully watching it and getting inspired. If anyone wants to become part of the SheEO Network, what is the best way for them to do that?
Just jump on our website, www.sheeo.world, 2 E's, SheEO.world.
Yep.
And if you,
I made that mistake with the email.
Yeah. And if you go onto the website, you can click on events and see when our next event is. We have these global activations events where you can come and learn more, or you can just go activate. Become part of the community. You'll be invited into a welcome call where you meet the other people who activated this month. And we'll walk you through what the experience can be like, invite you to the online community, show you what's up. You can have a one-on-one call with somebody if you'd like to, who's been an activator for a while, and they can walk you through the process. There's lots of different ways to come into this community. Or if you're like, I have 25 questions, you can come do that on the call or reach out for a one-on-one call. So,
wow. So, lots and lots of different ways. Well, I am going to be up on my high horse telling everyone to join this network because I love what it is that you're doing, and I can't imagine there's any women out there that wouldn't support what it is that you're doing. So they just need to know about it.
Yep.
So thank you very, very much for an amazing interview, and I can't wait to share this with everyone.